This book was so good, like completely took me by surprise that I felt the need to make an entire video just talking about it. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kaitlyn if you're new here, and I'm so happy that you found me and so happy that you're here. Listen, I know I just did a book video. We just did our February reading wrap up, and I normally don't just pop in like this to talk about singular books. We usually just debrief at the monthly reading wrap up. Well, we have done that for the past 2 months. But guys, I was literally saying in that last video, oh my gosh, I don't think I found my favorite book yet. Nothing has really just blown me away, made me like fully enthralled me in the way that I wanted to be. But Miss Tia Williams said, look no further, y'all. I want to talk to y'all about 7 Days in June. Okay, so I also mentioned this in the last monthly reading wrap up that I posted a little book haul on TikTok, and everybody, the majority of the people in the comments were saying I should read 7 Days in June next. So I just picked it up, not knowing that this was about to be the most fire book ever. I mentioned this also in the last video. I feel like it's been really difficult for me to find books that are just enjoyable to read, great solid story, great characters, great themes, great thought-provoking themes, but nothing that's gonna like make your brain hurt unnecessarily. You know, all reading isn't for education. Some reading is just for enjoyment and just to flex your imagination muscles. And 7 Days in June, y'all, boy, this book was absolutely so fire. So I just thought I would take a few minutes of your time just to talk about how much I really enjoyed this book. It's 6-star status for me. Broke the scale, past 5-star. This is a book that is probably gonna be a comfort story to me. Even though it was, you know, some might think that it was a little heavier. Excuse you? Some might think that it is a little heavier because there were some themes in there that were a little bit dark, but I don't know. It's just the way that Miss Williams packaged it, the way she sold it, the way she communicated it. Straight fire, bro. Let's just get into it. Okay, so let's briefly talk about the plot. I'm going to do my very best to do no spoilers. Y'all know I am a walking yapathon, so I'm gonna do my very best to not spoil, but to also give you a good premise of the book and, you know, hopefully sell it to you, because it's actually, it was such a good book. I didn't want to finish it. I told y'all also in that last reading wrap up video, anything that I don't really want to finish, that I keep rereading those last few pages of, it's a favorite, and this was definitely one of those. So I hope no one thinks this is annoying, but I'm just going to read you the synopsis in case you never heard of it. Eva Mercy is a single mom and best-selling erotica writer who is feeling pressed from all sides. Shane Hall is a reclusive award-winning novelist who, to everyone's surprise, shows up in New York when Shane and Eva meet unexpectedly at a Black literary event. Sparks fly, but what no one knows is that 15 years earlier, teenage Eva and Shane spent one crazy, torrid week madly in love and have been secretly writing to each other in their books ever since. That alone is just like, you already know the romance is about to be hot, okay? Over the next 7 days, amidst the steamy Brooklyn summer, Eva and Shane reconnect, but Eva's wary of the man who broke her heart. Before Shane disappears again, she needs a few questions answered. With its keen observations of creative life in America today, as well as the joys and complications of being a mother and a daughter, 7 Days in June is hilarious, romantic, and sexy as hell story of two writers discovering their second chance at love. Y'all, it's so much more than that. Like, it's so much more than that. Oh, that's a good synopsis though, because like, I'm telling you, it scrapes the surface, barely scrapes the surface of all the stuff that goes down in the book. But yeah, so Miss Eva is a famous writer and she got a lot going on. She has a wonderful daughter named Audrey as well, who also surprisingly was one of my favorite characters. Y'all know I don't really get up on kids like that, but like Audrey can stay. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, this was definitely a favorite because I was reading the acknowledgements. Again, did not want the book to end. I was reading the acknowledgements, and apparently, you know, Eva and Audrey are loosely based on Miss Tia Williams and her daughter, which I thought is so sweet, and it just proves that all authors kind of like, they pull something from life, you know, they all get their stories from somewhere, and I just thought that was so, I'm not gonna tell you every single little thing, because Tia Williams was also really good at incorporating smaller stories within the bigger story, which I really appreciated, because a lot of authors, I feel like, go off the rails. Also, I know I keep referencing this reading wrap up that we just did because it's so fresh, but I recently read Eileen by Otessa Moshfegh, and I was talking about how I didn't like that the side story took over the main story, and it really blew me. I was like, I did not want to read about that. Like, that it took up so much of the story, in my opinion, that it should have been included in the synopsis. I don't know, but Miss Williams did an amazing job of incorporating little side stories into one big story, and also just perfectly weaving them into one another. Like, nothing in that book was unnecessary to the plot, to the overall story, and the overall cultivation of Eva and Shane's second chance at love. Like, I loved it. Tia Williams also did that thing that I love, where authors make you think you're gonna get an unhappy ending, and surprise, you still get your happy ending anyway. And she drug it, y'all. Like, I want to say everything started falling apart like 30 pages before the book ended, and I was like, bro, she better not do this. She better not do this. She absolutely drug it, y'all. I was like, there's no way she could fix all this in 30 pages. Like, she's really about to end this book like this. And I was like, well, I guess it's not my favorite anymore, because I'm sorry, certain stories need to have a happy ending, and 7 Days in June is one of them. But tell me why she drug it all the way to the very last page. So I'm thinking, what's gonna happen? Like, are they gonna... Like I said, I'm gonna try not to spoil it, but she fixed it. She fixed it at the end. I don't think saying that the ending was happy is a spoiler. I don't know what does and does not classify as a spoiler, because me personally, I can't be spoiled. I'm not gonna remember anything anybody says, and if I read a book or watch a movie, it's gonna be my experience for the first time. So it's really hard for me not to do spoilers, but I'm gonna do my best, okay? I'm gonna do my best. I also really feel like Tia Williams really developed the characters well. She gave you everything that you needed to know about them and a little extra. So the characters in the book are Eva, or Genevieve, they're the same person, but she basically reinvented herself when she broke free from her dark past. Shane is the love interest, who also, just by the description, he's giving 10. Like, I've been thinking about this book a lot lately, and I was like, you know, who would play if this was a movie, if they ever bring this to life? Shane is giving like Damson Idris. Like, he's giving dark chocolate luscious. Damson would have to wear the bronze contacts, of course. And I was like, who would be Eva? I feel like my instinct is saying Keke Palmer, because I'm trying to picture, like, obviously there are a lot of amazing Black female actresses, but Eva needs to kind of be like, she needs to have a certain aesthetic, but also Keke Palmer is like super goofy, but she's a great actress. So I feel like she could kind of convey that little, you know, dark side. She was Aquila. She literally was Miss Aquila in the Bee. But yeah, I'm thinking Keke and Damson, perhaps? Anyways, other characters, Lizette, who is Eva's mom, Audrey, who is Eva's daughter, Cece, who is like her publicist person, but they're also really close friends, like she watches Audrey and stuff, Troy, who is Eva's ex-husband. And I also would like to mention Ty and Annabelle, because I feel like they're kind of overlooked because they're part of those little side stories that I mentioned earlier. But Ty is basically this kid that Shane mentors, and I'm gonna stop it right there because I want to talk about Ty so bad, but like, I can't say anything about Ty without spoiling it. And then Annabelle, she's also like, she's there for a split second. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like overly biased because I enjoyed the book so much, but I feel like some might think that Annabelle's presence in the story was kind of unnecessary, but I'm like, she was like whipped cream on a sundae. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was just that little extra that makes the story that much more well-rounded. But yeah, all the characters were amazing. There was not one person I didn't like. I mean, Lizette kind of got on my nerves, but it was one of those things to where you understand why people act based off of their upbringing and their like mental state and their self-image and self-worth type deal. So I can't even say I don't like Lizette, because I'm like, I know why she is how she is. Speaking of that, I'm gonna kind of move into the themes that were addressed in this book that I thought were so good and so perfectly executed. The number one theme obviously is love. This is a romance novel, I would say, and I feel like Eva and Shane's story just really brought to light that you'll really truly never be ready for your person and your soulmate. Eva and Shane were such complex individuals, and they had been through so much. They have been through so much hurt and trauma and pain, and I feel like they were constantly at war with themselves and figuring out and deciding if they could actually be with each other and love each other enough. And I feel like that's such a big love theme that never gets talked about, and I feel like she incorporated it in this fictional story so well and so eloquently, and it cannot be overlooked. But yeah, I feel like the themes of love in this book really explored how, you know, when you love somebody, you kind of have to love them. You have to love all of them, and like there can be no exception to that. And I also feel like this kind of brings the question, do you have to completely be understood in order to be loved? Because I'm trying to think of what type of person would be perfect or would understand Eva and Shane better than each other. Like, we briefly meet Eva's ex-husband Troy, and we kind of learn what happened between them. And it's just like, you either get it or you don't. Like, her ex-husband did not get it. He was very, wanted everything to be tied up in a little bow, very bubbly, rose-colored lenses-esque attitude, I guess. And I feel like Eva definitely needed somebody like Shane, who was, you know, very much rough around the edges, very much had been through a few things himself, so he's able to kind of understand other people on that type of level because he understands himself. I feel like it really brought up that question, do individuals have to understand each other in order to be in love? And I honestly think yeah, she kind of proved that. I know these are fictional characters, but like I said, you can literally learn anything from any book. Any book can raise new insights within yourself and make you think differently than you thought before. So yeah, these are fictional characters, but I can see how you can apply some of these themes to real life for sure. I think Tia Williams made it really important to understand that you'll really truly never be ready, and you just need to find somebody who you can grow with, who will understand you, and who is just gonna be there for you no matter what's going on, you know? Accept your person and just grow with them. Now, the next thing that I feel like might be overlooked in this story, but it was completely obvious to me, the theme of generational curses and understood false truths that have been passed down through generations. Boy, I was not expected to, you know, go on this train with this book. I don't even know what I expected from 7 Days in June, to be honest, but it was like not this greatness. I'm not even gonna say like, cause like, look, when you look at this cover, you don't think this is gonna change your life, you know? But you never think that about any book. Anyway, so I don't think this is spoiling, but as we know, Eva is an erotica writer, and she has made her living, supported her family off of a book series that she's written called Curse, which has been basically a mythological rendition of her and Shane's story. But there's also background themes of, it's crazy because like we got 7 Days in June and we got another book inside of the book. All of it addresses the themes of generational curses and things that we believe to be true based off of just what someone has told us. And as you guys know, I also read the 4 Agreements earlier this year, and it really changed my life and really changed my perspective about taking everything that we've absorbed and been domesticated to believe and accepting that as truth. And this book and this story is the perfect example of how when we accept things that people tell us and we accept those negative things and those negative false truths as fact and we agree to them, it could completely change the trajectory of your life. So Eva's mom, we talked about how I feel about Lizette earlier. Y'all, I know who would play Lizette. I don't know her name, but I'm gonna put her picture on the screen. I know who would play Lizette in the 7 Days in June film. There's no other woman. I don't know her name, but I'm gonna put it on the screen because if you know, you know. She would be perfect. If you've read this book and you know Lizette, this is Lizette, okay? Anyway, so Lizette has basically instilled this belief into Eva that, you know, the Mercier women do not fall in love, the men never stay, we're cursed, and like Eva has literally grown up believing that, you know, the Mercier women are cursed, we cannot find love, men are no good, blah, blah, blah. These false truths and these things that are subconsciously absorbed and believed in. Throughout the book, Eva never really outright admitted that she agreed with her mom, but it was her actions. It was the way she acted. It was the way she acted that was really, you know, proving the fact that she believed those negative thoughts and those negative beliefs that her mom had passed down to her, that she can't have no man and that she cannot have love. And it also manifested in her story that she wrote, Curse. I feel like especially in Black families, we just pass down these beliefs that we're not good enough, we're not smart. These health conditions run in our family. This runs in our family. You look at patterns that have happened in previous generations. Oh, my grandma couldn't stay married. Oh, my mom couldn't stay married. That must mean I can't stay married. And we accept these things as truth, and we don't even give ourselves the chance to write a new truth and write a new story for ourselves. And I just feel like, again, something else that Miss Williams just perfectly weaved within these lines of fiction, that like, this is real life stuff. This is real life stuff that people don't talk about and that people don't address. And it's just so important. And I feel like she brought that to light in this story in such an effective way. And I also want to briefly mention, she did address themes of self-harm and invisible disabilities, but I thought I would like kind of keep the video light because I love this book so much. I don't want to make it seem super dark because it wasn't. Like, don't get me wrong, there were some bad things that happened in the story and there was a lot of like heavy stuff, but like reading it, I did not get that heavy dark feeling. Like when I finished Cleo and Frank, I was like, bro, life is horrible. But like, I don't know, I guess she just kind of overlapped those heavy subjects with hope and humor, and so it just didn't feel as heavy as it was. Those things were definitely brought up in the book, and Eva and Shane both exhibited self-harm harming behaviors, and Eva had an invisible disability with the chronic migraines that she had. But, you know, again, lessons to be learned from those about how individuals who have invisible disabilities and those who do unfortunately self-harm, it brought a new light to those situations. And I can't say that I never thought about invisible disabilities and self-harm in the way that I do now. Like, I can't say that that was pretty profound, because honestly, it was just refreshing to kind of have a writer kind of vocalize the thought processes and the emotions that humans go through when they experience those things. But yeah, I just wanted to briefly mention that that was in the book, and if that triggers you, you should be aware that it's in that book. But to me, that's not what the book was about. Maybe it was what the book was about. Nah, it wasn't about that, but that definitely is in there, and I couldn't fully omit that because it is a pretty big part of the background and character development of Eva and Shane as people, if I'm honest. Okay, and this is the last theme that I want to talk about. I just wanted to hit the big three for me that kind of came about throughout the story. And this is the theme about mother-daughter relationships that I feel like was brought up throughout the book. So we have the relationship between Lizette and Eva. Very selfish vibes, very neglectful vibes. And I feel like Lizette wasn't doing that on purpose, but again, it's just, you know, we can't blame our parents. They only do what they know, and unfortunately some of us just have parents who don't really get it. And I feel like Lizette is an example of those parents who are just super selfish, super negligent, but they kind of cover up. They kind of try to supersede all of that with their love, but it doesn't quite work because the child still knows that the parent doesn't actually care about them for real or notice anything about them for real. So I feel like that was the dynamic between Lizette and Eva. But then Eva and Audrey, on the surface, I feel like it seems like it's a much better mother-daughter relationship, but to me, there's still a big problem, and it is, how do I want to put it? Dishonesty acting as protection or as a shield. Let's talk about it, okay? You cannot protect your kids from everything. To me, I feel like there was no reason why Eva needed to be lying to Audrey about who Lizette was. Don't get me wrong, you don't want your kids to be around your parents because they weren't good for you. That makes perfect sense. But you don't have to be fabricating this whole story about how Lizette was this, you know, feminist shiro and da-da-da-da-da because you want your daughter to think you know, come from this amazing person. And we all know Audrey was way too smart for that first ball. She definitely was not going for it. Nothing got past Audrey. And I love that. Like, she was dumb smart. That's like an oxymoron. She was like crazy smart, and she's super intuitive, and I want to spoil it. I want to talk about a scene that was like super cute to me, but I'm not going to. But she's just super, you know, nothing gets past her. She's very woke for a 12-year-old. So, you know, Audrey, I feel like Audrey low-key knew that there was something fishy going on with Eva's story about Lizette. But that's just further why I feel like there was no point in, you know, there's no point in lying to your kids about anything, because the truth will always come out. Number one, you can't hide anything ever. What's done in the dark will always come to the light. And yeah, I just feel like dishonesty and protection should never be used, you know, one acting as the other, if that makes any sense. But I also really did appreciate how Tia Williams conveyed how loving and wonderful Eva and Audrey's relationship was. There was one part in the story where Audrey was like, my mom's my soulmate. And I was like, you better love your mama. You better love your mama. And I love that because I personally was blessed enough to experience that, you know, that amazing relationship with my mother growing up. We were super close, and I felt like that. I feel like there comes a point where when you love your parents so much that you almost idolize them in a way. But as you get older, you just realize, you know, we're all humans. I'm 24 now, and I realized that my mom was once just a 24-year-old young lady like myself, and you know, you can't fault them, you can't blame them for how anything turned out or how they chose to go about raising you. And I just feel like, again, I don't know, maybe Tia Williams, maybe I'm looking too far in depth about it, but I do feel like that mother-daughter relationship is something very sacred and very special. And there's two types of mothers, Lizette and Eva, you know what I'm saying? So I thought that was super interesting to read about throughout the story, and you know, watch how the mother-daughter relationship affects all three of them, especially in a direct generation and bloodline like grandmother Lizette, mother Eva, daughter Audrey. I thought it was super cool and super entertaining to read about. Those are all the themes that I wanted to touch on in this video, but I do want to read you guys some of my favorite quotes. As you can see, I do have her tabbed up a little bit, but I'm telling you, I wanted to tab more, but I was just so into the story, and I was just like trying to like inch my way through because I wanted to finish it, but I didn't want to finish it. So I'm just gonna read some of my favorite quotes from the books. Some things that I just thought were funny, some things that I thought were relatable. This first one I thought was relatable. So context is Eva was talking about how Eva was basically responding to people questioning her love life, and she goes, when I feel lonely, I scroll through Tinder and remind myself what I'm missing, which is dudes with coconut oil beards all posing next to the same graffiti wall in Dumbo with profiles written entirely in emojis. And I remember that I'm not lonely, I'm alone. When I'm comatose from writing and mothering, when I'm hurting too badly to cook, talk, or smile, I curl up with alone like a security blanket. Alone doesn't care that I don't shave my legs in the winter. Alone never gets disappointed by me. It's the best relationship I've ever been in. Okay, real, very real, because alone to me equates to me being by myself, and I'm gonna love me and accept me in all states, you know, even when I don't do all the grooming that I should, even when I'm not feeling my best. Me being alone with me, myself, and I, that's a top tier relationship. But I also feel like there is kind of an imbalance. We get too comfortable being alone, we get too comfortable not having to put in any effort into another human, that it, you know, you kind of start to teeter on, you know, toxic. Is there such thing as a toxic relationship with yourself? I feel like that needs to be a new term that we coin. But yeah, I feel like I forgot what other book we just read that we talked about this in, but it's just like when it was a novel love story, I think, and she was basically saying how, you know, you start to convince yourself that you don't need anyone and that being alone is the best, you know, that's the best place for you to be. But we shouldn't write off the possibility of falling in love and finding our person just because we are happy with being by ourselves, you know? So I thought that quote was really relatable, and again, Tia wrote it in a humorous, lighthearted way, but like there's some oomph behind that, you know what I'm saying? Okay, this is a quote about racism. So Shane was talking on a panel and someone was asking him about the socio-political climate, and so he just responds, look, this quote-unquote current socio-political climate, it's always been my climate. I've been up against Trumps and Pences and Lindsey Graham since forever. The first one was the guard I was trapped alone in a cell with at 8 years old. No laws, no cameras, no mercy. What happened in that hour made me feel like the kind of person who doesn't feel obligated to workshop racism with white people. The burden isn't on me to explain it, Rich. The burden's on y'all to fix it. Good luck. Like, that's the answer. That's literally the answer. Here, let me see. Okay, so the panelists asked Shane, can you detail some of the explicit racism you face as Black authors? And then Shane was like, you want the truth? And that's what he said. I was like, Shane is a savage, bro. Like, please don't play with Shane, okay? Okay, and this is a quote kind of from Annabelle. Annabelle never speaks throughout the story. She just kind of appears. But there's this quote by her, thought by her, and she goes, I want to tell you who Annabelle is so bad, but I'm just going to read this quote. The quote is fine with no context. She just says, grown women know better than to attach themselves to time bombs. Teenage girls couldn't wait to be ruined. Simple quote about, you know, how when we're young, we're reckless, we are just ready to love and give all of our love to whoever gives it to us or whoever shows it to us. But, you know, grown women seem to be a little bit more guarded, and they often tend to try to look for these red flags and look for these things that are wrong with people that would make them wrong for us. And I really need to give you some context about that, but I'm not going to, so I'm just gonna move on. Oh, and this is another quote about kind of showing how much Audrey loves Eva without actually saying it. It says, when Audrey was 4, she tried to hop into the shadow that Eva cast on the walls, what she wouldn't have given to try her on. That girl love her mama. That girl love her mama bad, bro. Oh, this quote, she was talking about how she hasn't had sex in a long time. She's like, I don't miss it. Honestly, I'm practically a virgin again. It probably hurt. Be so for real, girl. Okay. And then Shane said this, and I just thought it was funny because I'm like, how many men think this? He goes, I secretly want to get a period just once. Okay, first of all, how many men want to get a period? Like, how many men secretly want to get a period? And why has nobody ever said nothing? Because, I mean, I get it. They probably don't say anything because girls talk about how horrible it is, and you kind of like want to see for yourself how horrible it is. But like the fact that that's written in this book just really got me thinking. I was like, how many of these men? But that can't be true because I see videos all the time of those men doing those period cramp simulators and they be dying. So like somebody's lying, you know? Okay, and I thought this part was cute. So Eva had finally agreed for Shane to come over, and it's in italics because it's just Eva's thoughts. And she's like, it's 9:45 a.m. Did he mean he was coming now or later in the afternoon? I need to put on blush, clean up the living room. We have zero food except Five Guys takeout and Pirate's Booty. Should I get wine? No. Of course, Shane can't have wine. Calm down. Start with a shower. Do I have time to book a quick highlights appointment? Is this crazy? And it's just like, why is it like that anytime you invite somebody over? Not even just a man, but it's just like, oh, I need to like look good. I need to get myself together. It was just funny to read about it because I be panicking when guests be on the way too. I be panicking. There's so many other good quotes in here. I could literally sit here and read forever, but I'll end with this one. And this kind of goes back to that theme about love and never being ready for your person. And it just says, but honestly, did it matter? He might never fully be emotionally stable. And Eva certainly wasn't the picture of glowing mental health herself. Maybe they'd always be disasters, but couldn't they support each other and grow together? No one was perfect. And maybe that was what real adult love was. Being fearless enough to hold each other close no matter how catastrophic the world became. Loving each other with enough ferocity to quell the fears of the past, just being there. Like, just being there, you know? All in all, like I said, I'm gonna have to give this book 6 stars. This is kind of monumental. My first 6-star book of 2025. 6 stars enough that I felt the need to record 30 something, almost 40 minutes of footage telling y'all how much I loved it and everything I loved about it. But if you haven't read it, I know I'm super late, by the way. This book came out like 4 years ago and I'm just now reading it, but I was preoccupied in 2021, let's say that. It's crazy how much more time I have to do things that I like now that I'm done with school, now that I'm not in a relationship, now that I'm just like out here vibing. Is actually crazy. I feel like I'm catching up on the past 4 or 5 years of my life because I feel like since COVID, like everything's a blur. Like 2020 to 2025, honestly, I'm just like, what literally happened? Where did the time go? Anyway, the book was fire. You should read it if you haven't read it. TikTok actually did not steer me wrong for once. It's crazy though because I have not really been back on TikTok since I posted that. Not really good at this social media thing, huh? Anyways, everything was perfect in the book. The language, the humor, the romance, the pacing, the side stories. Tia Williams had impeccable timing throughout the whole story. Everything, like if I had to rewrite the story, I wouldn't change a single thing that she did. And I'm gonna have to check out some more work from her because I literally never heard of her. Again, I'm late. If for some reason Tia Williams sees this video, I'm sorry, I'm late, but better late than never, as they say. And yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna read next. Actually, y'all, for some reason, I took a trip home and I was looking at my book collection in my childhood bedroom and I was like, why do I have some fire classics in here? So I think I'm gonna try to read The Great Gatsby next. I'm not a classic girl, you know, I read romance, I read weird literary fiction, I read self-help. So I'm gonna try to start The Great Gatsby. It's super short and I think I will like it. I read the first couple of pages and I was like, this isn't too boring classic. Like, I think I can do this. So that might be my next read. If I get bored with The Great Gatsby, I probably will pick up Rebecca Searle. I accidentally bought a new book. I went to Target and I accidentally bought 2 new books actually. I bought Eve by some girl. I don't know. I have been thinking about that book for like the past couple of weeks, so I finally just let myself have it. And I got Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle and I read In 5 Years. As you guys saw in my January reading wrap up, loved it down. So if I get bored with The Great Gatsby, which I don't think I will because I'm kind of in the mood for it, if I get bored with it, I'll just pick up Expiration Dates. And I'm still gonna run back through with my March reading wrap up. It's been a good month so far though. Not even gonna hold you. I've only read 7 Days in June and I have read Don't Listen to Everything You Think. 5-star and a 6-star. We're starting off really good. But I promise you I'm gonna stop yapping. The only reason I let myself get those 2 new books is because I got the promotion, guys. In my Get Ready With Me that I recently posted, I was saying I was kind of getting ready for the interview and I got the promotion. Okay, I'm sorry. But I got the promotion, so I was like, girl, you want some books? Get you some books. You're about to get a raise, girl. Get you some books, okay? So yeah, I just wanted to give that little update, a book update and a little life update. But okay, I'm done yapping. Y'all know my mouth can run like a bell clapper if I don't shut up. And I'm actually supposed to be meeting some friends soon, so I should probably prepare to leave. But thank you so much if you made it all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate it more than you could ever know. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this and you want to see more content from me, I don't just do book content. I love lifestyle, creativity, all of the above content, but the book content has been heavy lately, not gonna lie, because I've really been in my reading bookworm aesthetic tea. So stick around if you enjoy this type of content, you want to see more. I love you all so much and I cannot wait to catch you in the next video. Bye.